All right. Hello and welcome to InvertiCast. I am Tarantula, or Leah from Tarantula. And with me is a co-host, Simon, who has joined InvertiCast recently because he is just that cool. And he likes spending time with us. I don't know. So today we are going to be talking about feeders. And so what that basically means is the little bugs and things that I feed to my tarantulas and what Simon would feed to his mantises. Oh, good evening. Hello, Shady. Oh, it's always so nice to see Shady. Okay, so sorry. So, Simon, my first question for you. How did you get your feeders in the beginning? Because I know that you keep colonies. So, and that's probably a pretty big difference for me, is that I will go to a shop and I'll pick up whatever feeders I need. Sometimes I get a little extra, sometimes not. And then I come home and feed my tarantulas. So how did you get yours?
At the start, I was buying them online. When I started going a bit bigger with them, but before that, it was a whole different kettle of fish because you could only get a limited choice in feeders. So same as you go to the pet shop and buy whatever they had that was the size for what you wanted to feed. That's it.
Okay. Okay, cool. So what made you, obviously you have a lot of mantises, so it's probably a really good thing for you to have colony of superworms, because I know that you might not live in that big of a city. It's a little more convenient for you guys to just have those colonies. Can you speak on that a little bit?
I can. I was shutting up then, actually, to let you speak.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, you sort of froze as though you was expecting me to carry on. So sorry if you was.
All good.
It was quite an answer. Yeah, I think it's not the availability or the fact that I can just go out and get them. Believe it or not, I have a pet shop 10 minutes away, 10 minutes walk away. I have to walk through the woods, which means great deal to me because it means I can get to move every single log and see what's under it and pick up moss, etc., and bring them home as well. So I've got easy access to feeders if I run out just down the road. And I live 4 miles away from one of England's biggest cities, which is Manchester. So again, if I run out, it's 4 miles down the road, which is 6 kilometers. I don't know, something like that. I speak old world.
No worries. 6 kilometers. That's
I think
about 3.5 miles ish.
I'm well, 4 miles. So I think it's 6. I don't know. Anyway, that's all I was doing. It's the sheer volume required. If I was to go and buy them, I really would be spending so much money that it wouldn't make any sense to me. It's much easier just to have some. I know. I use this for everything. I use boxes like this, and I've got. I got like crickets in this one. I've got micro crickets under it, and then I've got red runners, and then dubia roaches, and then several different species of springtails, fruit flies, aphids, waxworms, mealworms, and probably other things I've forgotten, wax moths. So yeah, that's because I've got an array of insects, from tiny things like mantis nymphs that have just hatched, all the way to adults that will eat an adult dubia roach. I have to have all in between as well. And the ones that make a difference, it's like we've got mealworms for the tarantulas, for instance, have the mealworms, and the assassin bugs like crickets. So there's a lot of different sort of things we've got to feed in different age stages. So,
when we discussed, actually, we discussed feeders before, and you actually mentioned that in the UK, or where you are, you can actually just go out into your garden or your yard and find like a couple isopods, or maybe you find a darkling beetle or something like that, and then you can basically just capture the bugs from outside and harvest them that way. Here in the States, it's really not a great idea to do that, mainly because of all the insecticides and pesticides that a lot of gardeners and other people in their like homesteads and their homes will use for their yards. But you also mentioned that it's not legal for insecticides in the UK. Do you know why that is?
It is legal for some pesticides, but they have to be rigorously vetted, and most of the pesticides, like farmers, have a different insecticide situation to the people in the house. If you go to the supermarket and you buy an insecticide or something like that, it's not going to be the same sort of potency as like what a farmer would get. And most of them are biodegradable and insta kills. So they either kill the insect where it is when it eats it, or when it comes in contact with it. The ones in your garden, if you live near a city, the chances are the ones in your garden are going to be 100% hunky-dory fine. And if they're not, you can just keep them for one day, and that should be enough to quarantine them. The main problem would be parasites. But I've been doing it for a long time by just grabbing stuff out of the garden, and never a single problem. I don't wash moss or sticks or branches or bark. I don't clean any of it. Just put it in an enclosure. Bob's your uncle.
And you've said that this is really common practice. So this is like really normal for you to be able to just go outside. Like there's not really a whole lot of pesticide use where you're from, and it's a lot easier because I live in a big city. So for me, like if I were to step outside into my yard to collect specimen or dirt or whatever for like an enclosure, the grass isn't even like a native species of grass here. So there comes a lot of other insects and stuff that actually don't belong here in Colorado, like the Japanese tree beetle at the moment is wreaking havoc on some of the pines in the mountains and stuff. So I definitely would not like go out and grab some of that material, pesticides and weeds and strange things that I just don't know what's going on in this yard. We're just very like, especially in a city, we're really kind of squished together. So, but there are also other benefits. Like there are mealworms and superworms and crickets and stuff pretty much ready for me within about 2 miles or 3 miles from where I live. So I just, hop on a scooter and run over and grab as many crickets as I need. So, I mean, it is kind of convenient. But for you, it makes sense, like our worlds are so different, but also kind of the same. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, do you have a favorite feeder insect to like feed your mantises or?
Favorite as in what's best, or favorite as in what's easiest for me to feed?
Well, how about both?
Okay. Cockroaches, red runners, probably.
Okay, cool.
Probably the best protein-wise and fat-wise for mantis. The only problem I've got with them is catching them, which is a pain. I generally do, like the fair-sized ones, I'll give them the roaches. Before that, they'll get an array of all sorts of different things, from aphids to fruit flies to, and then you've got blue bottles, green bottles.
Oh yeah.
Moths.
I think I think my favorite is also the red runners. I like the tarantula's responses to them because it's pretty epic to watch them grab the, because they are very fast little roaches. Like they're incredibly fast. And yeah, so I agree. Catching them is a pain. So that is also one of my favorite feeders to feed. Yeah, we're just sitting here with our, we probably look really strange with a couple of tongs and trying to, oh.
You've got this much stuff to feed that can be awful, absolutely awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're having a bad day and you can't catch them. Or there's a certain size you want in the box. Like try to catch them and that. Because most people, especially in yours with the tarantula hobby, it's generally the male roaches that you're giving out, the tarantulas, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're very quick, and the tarantulas actually can catch them a lot faster than I can. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's the male roaches that you feed to them, isn't it? When you open the box, you've got to get a male roach for you. You don't want to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because you want the females. You want the females to reproduce. You want them to, create more.
I luxury because mine is the size. So it's not about the male or the female. It's like I want them this size, so I've got to grab them that size, no matter what they are. That's what I'm using. If I can catch them, that's what I'm using. So it can be a bit hard work to keep at the moment, I don't like doing it, but this week I'm going to be feeding them crickets. And crickets aren't always the best idea to feed to mantis because they tend to eat any dead crickets and then they pass it on and it becomes a problem. I've not had a problem with it yet, but it is an apparent problem, so I'm told.
Sure.
I've yet to see that happen.
Okay, so speaking of that, speaking of the best food for your inverts, I do have a question for that. You said that red runners actually provide the most sustenance or the most protein-based, sustenance, essentially. Yeah. Are there other nutritional benefits to other feeder insects? So, I know that crickets are usually pretty good protein. Tarantulas do love them. But obviously I honestly would prefer red runner roaches over crickets. So, is there other benefits to, say, superworms or mealworms or hornworms?
It depends what you're feeding.
Okay.
I don't use hornworms, etc., for any of these guys because there's too much fat in them. And they can't process it, and it's no good for them at all and getting indigestion. Yeah, they get digestion issues. So mantis are not very good with fat at all. Fatty substances. They don't mind sweet substances like they have been seen in the wild, taking nectar from flowers, but only in small amounts. You've got to remember that small amount. If you're going to give a mantis, or pretty much any invert, because most of them will take things like honey, sugar water, nectar. They'll take it, but you shouldn't offer it in massive amounts. It should only be a little bit. And they don't really need it, to be honest. They just need the protein. But we do that. We'll come on to that in a minute when you go on the non-live feeders. I'll talk about what I was just going to say then, about people feeding things because they want to and not for the benefit of their actual pet. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Is there a way that we can tell if our invertebrate, whether it be, assassin bugs or tarantulas or jumping spiders, is there a way to be able to tell if they actually like what they're eating or if they prefer something? How do you go about doing that?
Well, yeah. I'm going to say, yeah. I'm only going to speak for mantis here, but I'm going to say yes. they will definitely know the difference between something that's been gut loaded. I don't know if you passed on it. I can't remember. I saw what you sent, but I can't remember if you mentioned gut loading, so I don't want to say anything.
Oh, I'm aware of it. Yeah. It's okay.
Would you like to bring up in a bit? Oh,
yeah, so, absolutely. Well, we can talk about gut loading.
Right. Well, gut loading is obviously the way you get a feeder insect and you purge it by giving it a certain thing, like can give crickets or apples or lettuce, and you actually doing the mantis a favor or whatever it is a favor by giving them this item rather than eating. If you go into a shop and buying a box of crickets that have been sat in that box for days on end, eating nothing but other dead crickets and skins and sawdust that's in that box, the cricket's full of pretty much you're just dropping its nutritional value already. If you feed them straight out of the box, it's just really low nutritional value.
Okay.
If you're feeding the insect, whether it be a cricket or whether it be a mealworm, cockroach, I forgot what they were called.
Sorry.
If you actually give them something, like I will, give them an apple. I'll slice an apple, chuck it in, an apple. They'll eat the apple slices overnight, take the rest out, and then I'll give them something else that's gonna pick up their nutritional value when they're eating. But I have noticed that if I feed something on fruit, a mantis is more likely to eat that particular item. It will pick one item over another if one has been fed on fruit.
Okay.
So
that makes a lot of sense.
Lettuce, for instance.
Sure. That's fascinating. Okay. So you have noticed that the fruit fed crickets and whatnot are more appealing to your mantids.
Yeah, they're much more
fun. Well, that's cool. I really like that. So you mentioned no, I mean, because I actually really agree with that. I have noticed that my tarantulas are the same way. Like, if I bring home super worms rather than crickets, or if I bring home like mealworms are not really a big favorite of my tarantulas. They really don't like them. Like some of the old world guys do. They'll scoop them right up. But mealworms I use them mostly for like my little jumping spiders and true spiders and stuff because they'll just go for it. But I have noticed that roaches are definitely their favorite thing. Like they pounce on those a lot quicker than they do the crickets. Like they, it's almost like they enjoy just, So, I definitely think our creatures do give us indications that, they have a favorite food that they like to eat over another. So you also mentioned, in talking about nutrition, there are proper ways of feeding crickets and roaches and mealworms and such. So what is like the best way to keep a superworm colony per se?
Are we talking Mario worms?
I think so. They're the very large darkling beetles that.
Yeah. I think we had them on last time we did the beetle one. I had a darkling beetle in my hand.
You did.
Right. Yeah. But I've got loads of eggs here from them, so I'm hoping that these guys will have a new colony soon. So that'd be great, and I'm going to feed.
Oh, that's awesome.
These will generally eat pretty much anything, but
okay.
The groups in the wild would probably eat wood and rotting leaves and even substrate. They generally just to eat that sort of stuff up. If you're going to add them, you can feed them fruits. I'd say melon seems to be something they like quite a lot. I noticed. The only problem with things like melon is fruit flies. Fruit flies and fungus gnats. If you're, if it's a warm day like today, it's bloody warm in here. and you put that in an enclosure, and you with your mealworms or whatever, your super worms or anything else really, like within a couple of hours, the thing's full of fruit flies or fungus gnats, and they just come out of nowhere. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's the only problem. I have fed them on lettuce.
Okay.
And cucumber. Cucumber's got absolutely zero nutritional value for any animal. Animals just like it, but it has got value because it's got hydration value.
Hydration. Yeah, I was going to guess that.
Yeah, that's the value. There's no real nutritional value in it. It's nothing. No massive benefits. Same with lettuce. Lettuce has like trace calcium and stuff like that in it, and some other things, but it's not exactly a powerhouse food, if you know what I mean. Well, that's generally across the board, isn't it? Vegetables, they don't provide as much nutrition as meats, etc.
So feeding them fruits is actually a much better option than vegetables.
I find that fruit is a much better option. One of the fruits that don't tend to like so much is tomato. That might just be me. It might just be our breed over here.
No, that makes total sense because tomatoes are actually pretty acidic, and I know that I can't feed tomatoes to I have a colony of red wigglers. I have little compost worms.
Yeah.
I love them, but I can't feed them tomatoes because it's too acidic. It'll just tear through them.
Yeah, they don't like it. Millipedes won't eat tomatoes.
That makes sense. The dubias will eat tomatoes?
Will they?
Is that what you just said?
Oh, God, no. I've not found any eat tomatoes, no.
Oh, okay.
Carrot, yes.
Yes, I have a friend who actually has a colony of dubias and Madagascar hissing roaches. Those guys are cool. They get huge, right? Yeah. And they work really well as feeders for the big tarantulas, the bird eaters, like Goliath bird or Theraphosidae sturmi or blondie. Yeah, but they're a good feeder for those guys because all you have to feed them is one, and that's good. That's a perfect meal. So. How do you feel that the temperatures of where you keep your inverts, like the feeder inverts, does that also have an effect on their behaviors and eating behaviors, or their colonies, numbers, populations?
Yes, and as you are well aware, and I think everyone else who's in the chat that I can't actually see because I'm blind. Might be nobody there for all I know.
It's okay. Shady has to go actually. So
right.
bye. Yeah.
The inverts, as far as temperature, obviously, as you know, is concerned, the metabolism changes, which means that they speed up when it gets warmer. They become more voracious the warmer it gets, because basically they're designed to kickstart in summer, aren't they? It's all bugs are designed to we'll muddle our way through spring, but it's summer now. We're all excited. We're all going to get ready. We're going to eat everything that isn't nailed down, and we want to make and reproduce ready for next year. So temperature makes a massive difference. Like red runners, for instance, keeping them around 35 to 40 seems to be a good temperature.
Really?
What you're keeping them in?
So in Fahrenheit, I believe that's.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, that's okay. I'm just, translating for the Americans.
High 90s, I think. 35, high 90s to.
I think mid to like upper 80s. I thought.
Is it? Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm not very good with math.
I'll find out. 35 to 40. I've got my home help.
75 is 95.
95 for 35, yeah.
Oh wow, okay.
So 40 is going to be
104.
yeah, about 104. So it's like 95 to 105.
Okay, so that's the best
temperature for those. Let's keep the dubia roaches at that temperature as well.
Oh. How do you get them to be at that temperature?
Heat mats.
Okay, where do you place the heat? Like, do you keep the heat mats in a certain position, or?
Yes. Do it cunningly, because you don't want more than one heat mat if you don't have to. So you've got your bin, handy little pots for new scenes. You've got your bin with your, let's say, your dubias in, and then here's your bin with your red roaches, your red runners in. Put the heat mat on top of here, red runners on there.
Oh, okay.
Bottom with one heat mat.
Well, that makes a lot. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I appreciate that. Okay.
and they absolutely go mental with that sort of temperature. They love it. Hot.
Absolutely. So, okay, so this is really interesting for me. I find that my tarantulas actually benefit from a diverse diet. So I do feed them mostly crickets, but I do also feed them other things like hornworms, roaches, the superworms, these sort of things. Like when they're tiny slings, I feed them fruit flies. So that being said, are mantises dissimilar to tarantulas in that way? Do they really not prefer to eat a variety of insects?
I'd like to think they do, because in the wild, of course, they're not just eating one thing every single day. Plus the variety of intake, just like us. If we eat, I'm trying to think something you know as well as I do. Okay, if we eat McDonald's every single day, we're not going to be at our tip-top optimal condition. If we just eat, it might have proteins, it might have some calcium, it's got some sugars and salts, definitely. But we're eating that every single day, and we're not varying what our intake is. It's like you can't. Well, some people argue you can, but if you were just eating plates of steak all the time and never any green, there's going to be issues in your body where things aren't working properly. So I think it's the same with insects or predatory insects that require, they don't just catch one thing. If they're monophagous, which obviously, as you know, means they only eat one thing, that's fair enough. Yeah? Like you get some stick ants that are monophagous, where they'll only eat one leaf from one tree. You know what I mean?
Right. Kind of like koalas. They only eat from eucalyptus.
Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah, absolutely. And pandas with
bamboo.
Yeah, no, they're designed to eat meat. For some strange reason, they just like bamboo. I think they're just lazy out there, like ghost mantis. But yeah, I think they are.
Maybe so.
I do believe that the differences and the input. There are some scientific papers on this. I wasn't quite sure this was a question I was going to ask us. A little bit of look myself, but there are scientific papers on this. I have read them in the past. The benefits of feeding your pets with a varied diet over a one monophagous diet. It's like your dog, your cats. That if you've ever noticed in the adverts when there are the commercials, you can't do it. They're advertising their dog or cat food, saying it contains everything your dog or cat needs.
Right.
So that means all those
very much
things are in here.
That's interesting because I feel like it's a lot like us as well. Because if you're only eating chocolate donuts every day, you're not really going to enjoy that. You're
you might something not good.
You might enjoy it a little bit, but it's not going to be very good or beneficial to you in the long run, because you find yourself eating more because you'll just get hungrier. Your body is just going to cycle through it, essentially.
Well,
We need to eat.
Your body would crave other things, like it'd crave proteins. You know, I've heard vegetarians and vegans say, I could just eat, you know, chicken or something. It's like they really they get meat cravings, which I can understand.
Well, and I think our cravings come from, you know, from our bodies for sure. Like, I think that comes from within our own biochemistry. Like, your body is just going to say, hey, like, we're getting a lot of muscle cramps. I think we need a little more potassium and fiber. So the tastes that come to mind are going to be like eggplant and bananas and maybe even yams. Like, that's where that potassium is going to be coming from. And then, of course, a little bit of folic acid, because our bodies are complex. So I really feel like it would be remiss for us to not assume the same in inverts, that their bodies are complex. So they are going to need different kinds of feeder insects to keep them at their prime healthiest.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Sorry,
yeah.
my cat is lonely, I guess.
Has it turned up there? Yeah.
Yeah.
The ghost mantis fly from a plant onto here. Like, I'm keeping my eye on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I've got the same as you, but mine are tiny.
Yeah, right.
No animals in here, I'm afraid.
Oh, I think mantises are just some of the coolest inverts, though. Like, I would love to hang out in your invert room for sure.
Well, there's hundreds in here at the moment, and there's hundreds more waiting to come out. So
nice.
It is fun. But of course, I don't just have the mantis. I've got lots of different inverts. Like, so it's a big thing. The mantis obviously are a major deal, but
yeah,
I have more isopods than mantis.
Oh wow, I believe it. That's cool.
I have more species of isopods and actually physically more individual isopods than I do mantis at any one time. Always.
Absolutely.
Is I can't have an isopod on my shoulder while I'm walking around or whether I'm on my computer, and I like that interaction you get with the mantis, which you can't have with most inverts. Like, in fact, I'm struggling to think of another invert that you can actually have that relationship with. As you know, have it on your desk, out of its tank, or on a plant next to you, or on you. You know, just having a wander around.
I agree. I mean, maybe a beetle, like a Hercules beetle, or a big guy like that, like those rhinoceros beetles. What are those guys? They're huge, right? So I mean, I could see somebody having like a cool Hercules beetle just chilling on their shoulder. Like, I could see that.
All right, thanks. You just ruined that for me now.
Yeah, there you go. You're done.
You got me. Yeah, beetle. Right.
Well, and maybe even assassin bugs.
No.
I mean, they just like to hang out on their core ground. I don't see. They don't do much else. They pick on each other though when it's time to feed them. It's pretty funny.
No. I'm afraid no. That's a big no from me for the assassin bugs. Definitely no.
No, I agree. I'm sorry. It is kind of like a sting. Yeah, they do have a protubous stinger for their mouth that it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool unless you're on the end of it.
Yeah, unless you're like on the wrong end of it for sure. But no, mantises I think are probably the most peaceful. They're probably the most like interactive, because a beetle probably isn't going to interact much, right?
They come over. Beetles come over as extremely dumb. They come over like just this big tank, and it just wants to power through things. Like, it hasn't got any. The actual fact that when a mantis will look at you when you make a noise or a quick movement, it can't hear you, by the way. It's feeling the vibration. Like,
no, it's vibration.
It's giving it that and looking at you straight in the eye. They always look like they're looking at you straight in the eye. They're nuts, but they do look like that. And
they do.
That, to me, just the fact that they can move the neck, you perceive intelligence in that creature. even where there isn't any. You know, to we just level them up a bit as soon as you see them moving their head around and you know what's going on here. And I've just noticed that passing, so I'll have a look over there. And that's what does it for me. It's the entire fact that I always look at them like I do with jumping spiders as well.
Yeah, jumping spiders do this.
If I walk past the jumping spiders, they're like, oh, go like that. What do you want? what are you doing?
Yeah.
That cracks me up. It just really makes me laugh. And
they're very curious. I'm so excited that you mentioned the jumping spiders being as curious as they are, because that's really cool that look at you associating these little jumping spiders with something that makes you smile. Oh.
But I do like true spiders. I just don't like tarantulas.
Okay. I'm teasing you.
Right behind me. Tiny jumping spiders right behind me.
That's cool. No, I think that's great. So, I had another question about superworms for you. What is the best way of keeping superworms? You said, or the darkling beetles, the big guys. What's the best way of keeping them? So, like keeping them on soil.
Yeah.
What do you do? Do you essentially make like an environment for them?
Yes. Generally, the substrate that I mix for isopods, I would use for beetles. And the substrate is generally shop-bought compost, the cheapest one you can possibly find, because that's the best one. That's the one that's got all the free stuff in it. So it's got all bits of wood in it already. It's got leaves in it. Because it's so cheap that you know for a fact that they haven't put any fertilizer in it or any pesticides in it, because they don't spend any more money than they have to if it's cheap. So the cheapest one possible is always the best one for your isopods. And back to your question, the Morio worms. So it would be compost or topsoil if you're British, leaves, ground up dead leaves in there, and some white wood.
I'm sorry?
White wood. People get confused what white wood is. They think it's just wood that's white, and it's not. It's hard wood. So any hard wood, rotting wood, broken up, and just chucked in there, all mixed up, and the beetles will eat anything in there.
Wonderful.
You need to put soft, like this is. Here we go again. Soft hardwood. Makes sense?
Yes. It sounds pretty funny, but I get it.
Yeah, it's like soft. One second.
Thank you, Simon. I think I know what he means, but like chunks of, say, oak or
this is
cedar or something like that.
This is birch.
Okay, yeah.
And you see why they call it white wood when it starts to rot. But if I do this with my fingers,
yeah, you break parts. Yeah.
And I could just crumble this entire thing up piece by piece. So a piece of this, even a small piece, inside with the beetles, and the beetles put their ovipositor in and lay their eggs inside the wood. So obviously the beetles are going to the eggs are going to hatch, turn into worms. They're going to eat the wood.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I didn't even know that about Mario beetles. And the types of wood.
Yeah,
so you don't
a shot with them laying eggs in the wooden frame of the tank where they're in. They're laying them at the front between between the glass door and the frame. They're laying in between that part, so I can actually see them put their ovipositor in and lay the eggs. So it's really good, really sort of proves the point of where they lay.
Cool. And they don't need to eat anything else other than the soft hardwood?
Not really. I mean, you can chuck, like I said before, you can chuck, these are apples off a tree outside I just found.
Okay.
Just slice them up, shove them in. The beetles will eat them. They'll eat the
Okay.
apples, all sorts of things.
Awesome.
Carrots. They like carrots.
Well, yeah. I know there are the dubia roaches definitely like carrots as well. So do the hissers, the big old hissers. So, all right. I mean, do you have anything else to add to feeders and like? Do you think that there's any information that a beginner might really need to know about feeders before we go?
Well, I think you could probably do an entire session on things like flying feeders, feeders for the non-predatory arthropods, like ice feeders.
Yeah.
There's tons and tons of things you could go over. It's an endless subject. There's always somebody somewhere will have something else to say, so have some input on it, which is great. Because the more input we get, the more control group you've got, and then you can put it all together and work out what's the best way of doing things. So, yeah, if anyone's got any information that contradicts what I've said, please put it in the comments so I can read it. And
yeah, we're all about learning and growing through that learning, growing through that, because in all honesty, I've been told all my life that knowledge is power, and so I just want to help empower the community and the hobby a little better to help the advancement of these tarantulas and mantises and any invert that we need to feed. So, Simon, did you have it? I'm going to say that this is the part where we're going to shamelessly plug things that we're working on or our own channels. Whatever you got. What's going on, Simon? Yes, the Mantis Garden.
Just
awesome.
Just follow my channel, and if something takes your fancy, watch it. I'm not really up for promoting too much. I don't have to scream it out. If you want to see it, I do a bit of everything on there. Quite a few different inverts. Similar to this, I've done stuff on feeders, which I have to review because I did small things. But yeah, Mantis Garden, the Mantis Garden. Go and have a look.
All right. That sounds perfect. I'm actually going to plug in my channel because you guys always tell me I'm not so good at this. So check out my YouTube channel, Tarantulia on YouTube. You'll be able to find it pretty easily. I am going to be releasing a video this weekend, so it's going to be the Holothele longipes. I just basically am going to talk about the species, and then I've got a very small sling spider rehouse for next week, but I do 2 in 1, so we can check that out. And then I think this week, I just have all that going on. Obviously, Invert Podcast and Shady Things. I love Shady Things channel. She is a lot of fun. She kind of brings out like a side of me that I know, like the emo kind of moody, dark humor kind of side, and I really like her channel. So check out Shady Things. She's very, very cool. Other than that, this is us. This is InvertiCast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you still have burning questions about feeders, you can post them in the Facebook page or in the comments. All right.
Thanks for watching.